Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to the CXO TV conference. Uh, we have distinguished panelists from various domains today, and we will be talking about uh, their use cases and challenges around the multi-cloud environment. So just to start, I'll introduce myself. My name is Neil Palricha, and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Present Technology. I have close to about 20 years of experience to work with various Fortune 500 companies and leading some of the digital transformation projects for various clients. I'm going to be the host and moderator for today. So we'll start with the rounds of introduction. Over to you, Avinash. You would like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sunil. It's indeed a pleasure to be on this panel. Look forward to having an interesting discussion. Not only contribute to all, but to also learn. As an individual, I have been playing a digital transformer role for last few years. My experience is spanning over 20 years. In that, I have worked for both very established as well as startup organization. Lately, I have been working with private equity funded organization where I have got the opportunity to transform the technological capability and take the organization to the next level.
Thank you, Avinash. And would you also like to kind of give a little bit background about the application landscapes you're working with and the multi-cloud environment you're currently catering to?
Sure. So if I reflect upon my last 3 assignments, the first one in that would be technology built at Snapdeal, where I was responsible for building their full fulfillment capability. That included, once the order came, everything post that, warehousing technology, first mile connectivity, line haul, last mile, and then organization technology built, I was responsible for. So that was at Snapdeal. Post that, I was with Abbas Financiers, where it was a private equity funded organization. A transaction has happened, and then they had a desire to do an IPO in about next 2 to 3 years. That meant strong technological build, which will establish the organization capability as a tech leader, and also leveraging those newly built technology also to grow business. Happy to report that that organization got invested when its value was 950 crores. And when we did IPO in about 2.5 years, we were valued at about 8,000 crores. So 8x sort of growth. In the recent most assignment, I am working with Lighthouse Learning. Again, Lighthouse Learning is a KKR invested firm. They're also the last transaction which triggered my onboarding was at similar range, about 900 crores. And we do have a desire to make this organization as a platform, which should be able to not only support transactions worth 15x or 20x, but it should be one of the best platform in the country. Happy to say we have built the platform and we are now ready. Not only that, we have been able to earn about 70 CR worth of top line with a 60% bottom line. So that's where we stand today, and that's some of the high level impacts my last 3 assignments has achieved.
Great. Thanks, Avinash. That was very insightful. So over to you, Rupesh. Would like to go next?
Yeah. So I'm Rupesh Nirgude. I am actually the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Prism Johnson Limited. We are a manufacturing industry, manufacturing core building materials, that is cement, tiles, bath fittings, chemicals, and concrete. I have been into this role for almost now 15 years. Into IT, started my career into taking care of SAP applications, and then I moved on to digital applications. Since last 7 years, I am into digital transformation, working on various transformation projects from CRM to SRM, and now taking care of overall digital e-learning and other things. So, and in the technology landscape, I have been very last few years, I've been working closely on the cloud migration projects as well. Yeah, which includes ERP migration as well as non-ERP application migration.
Great. Thanks, Rupesh. So that's so you're still in the journey of migration, or you completed?
Yeah, so it's you can say it's a journey, because we still have multiple other means we have a mix of both cloud as well as on-premise applications. So depending on the need and depending on what we want to our objective is, we take the call, and every year we keep on reviewing our product portfolio.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Rupesh. So coming over to Manish, you would like to introduce and give a little background about the projects you're working on.
Thank you, Sunil, and thank you for being all of you here for this panel discussion. Happy to be part of it. So I'm the global head IT work with Wockhardt Limited. So I take care of the complete IT operations for Wockhardt all across the globe, and so we have manufacturing units in India and abroad, specifically in the healthcare and pharma. So we were active participants in the vaccines, particularly in UK environment there. So taking care of the infrastructure, all the enterprise applications, SAP, emerging technologies. So we adopted a lot of blockchain based applications which we have adopted. And when we talk about blockchain, the cloud comes into picture, as it has to be tokenized, and all those ledgers are distributed all across. I think that's where we look at things, how secure we are, how the data is being protected, all those areas that we talk about. And when we talk about these things, we have to be hybrid. We cannot be one particular cloud. I think that's where I looked at all the cloud journeys and how we can benefit all organizations. Specifically, if you're not funded and you don't have infra in place, you should definitely look at cloud as journey, and the total TCO, the total cost of ownership, has to be looked at together. And that's what I've been looking at. And in fact, in my previous organization, I created a tier 3 data center for which can be used as a data fiduciary earlier. So I know what are the benefits of cloud, and it can bring a revolution around, especially for the startup ecosystem.
Great. Thank you, Manish. So coming to the next question, right? Once you've kind of decided you want to kind of take the cloud journey, and what I heard from all of you, most of you are working in a multiple cloud environment. What are the key challenges and consideration when you're kind of deciding and then kind of integrating these diverse cloud environments and platforms which you have, right? So what do you, Manish?
Yeah, I think that's a very pertinent question, and I think we should be all asking ourselves, how do you want to adopt? What are the challenges all across, and what are the strategies? I think the first thing is when we talk about is to standardize everything. Now, how do we standardize it? Use the open APIs, gateways all across. I think that's a key to success, because when you bring in interoperability at various clouds, you'll have to look at how do they talk to each other. I think that's where you have to look at the platforms which adhere to the open standards. They have the robust APIs for data and application integration. You'll have to look at industry standard protocols and formats here, especially for the data storage, which we do in SQL and NoSQL kind of object storage that we look at. I think that is where we also look at, when we look at multiple cloud journey, how to make a CI/CD pipeline for your applications. How do you containerize your applications? Are you using a Docker or any Kubernetes kind of a runtime environment for your applications so that it is replicated all across? I think that is another thing which you should be looking at. Well, apart from all other, I think if I start talking, there would be 50 of those things that we should be looking at. And I think that the benefit is infrastructure as a code, that if you start looking at things, how to develop that, and then it would be easier to migrate. See, I think the biggest challenge is how to migrate the data and start using it. And that's where you start looking at different solutions.
Just to add to what Manish said, the challenges starts right from, how do you get the visibility of the cost across multiple platform, to things like how do you ensure the security across platform. Then you have hyperscalers. Hyperscalers has an inherent desire to keep you on the platform. And that gets manifested in multiple format. Things like, they would put a cost when you are taking the data away from the system. That's commonly referred as ergis cost. So how do you operate in case if your requirements are not getting matched to a platform? And would you obviously, as a strategist, you would not like to marry yourself to a platform for long. How do you make sure that your system is interoperable? The lack of standards right now, there is no standard which guides the interoperation of different cloud service provider, be that a cloud service provider, the public cloud service provider or hyper cloud service provider. Since the standard is lacking, how do you design your system when you bring different sorts of solution in picture? As you have a standard solution provider, and then you build your own solution, making them talk to each other, because that's one goal you will have, irrespective of size of organization. Then how do you make them talk? It's a challenge, and it takes substantial bandwidth of management, including technology management team right now, and that's a challenge worth solving.
Okay, interesting. So
just to add one more point here, what Avinash said, I'll just want to take this point, since I think the architecture, how do you build it, that is most important. And is we have low code, no code, and a serverless kind of environment. How do you build it? And if you look at those things, then only you will be able to look at the cost components, because when required, then only the instances of servers come up. Otherwise, they don't exist for that nature. So I think that's something which we should be looking at in the multi. I agree to Avinash that security is the most important key here, because most of the cloud service pass on this buck to the customer that you manage it.
Yeah. So as Manish and Avinash rightly pointed out, security is one of the aspects. So what we do is that when we take a decision, we look at the holistic approach of what should be what is the application landscape, and 5 years down the line, what is the requirement? Because every application will have its own ask based on the criticality of the business. In some of the applications which are quite stable, where you have to have where the data confidentiality is quite important, you can always take a hybrid approach. We can have can split the database onto on-prem and put the application on cloud, so that users don't face any issue with the performance runners. But when it is the rolling out new applications, typically in the area of the digital, there is always that the application was required yesterday. So in that case, the time to market the product, I would say, the application, it's easy to adopt the cloud, because there you always can have some sort of the agility helps you into that. You don't have to spend much of your time breaking your head onto the application, developing making the infrastructure ready. You focus more on the business core requirements, and it's like fast fail, learn quick and fast fail. You can move on with those applications, and then once you have decided on what is going to be the roadmap for the application, you can always take a call on the database sizing. So there are multiple issues here. As Manish also correctly said, that you also have to not only look at the application but the architecture of it, whether your application is going to talk with multiple applications, and what is going to be the architecture. Then of course means it's not earlier it used to be always said that cloud is cheap, but if you look at the 5 years TCO, it is not so. So you also have to look at what is your in-house capability. Do you have the teams who can support your data centers, in-house data centers? So I think there are multiple areas which you will have to look at when you are talking about the cloud environment.
Thanks, Rupesh. So wanted to kind of just also discuss about on a related point, right? How did you kind of work on the application portability? So you have when you're doing the migration, you have an existing system or the application. So primarily, you had to kind of do a lift and shift that worked, or you had to completely re-architecture, do the re-architecture, and then kind of put it.
Some of the legacy applications, you'll have to take a call whether you want to continue with that or you want to redesign those, because some of the applications which have been quite stable, and you feel that they are not going to be, they're not going to grow, or then in that case, it's might as well you can keep it in the same. You don't have to even move it to the cloud. You can keep it in the cloud as well. But some applications which are new gen applications, like we are now working a lot on IoT, where we can have multiple devices, sensors which have been connected with our machines from different factory locations. So in those cases, we take a call that we consciously go onto the cloud. And then the complexity of architecture, the designing of the application architecture, the security perspective, everything comes into it. So these are one of few things which we start with. And of course, then you also have to look at the TCO of moving into it. But mainly, if you look at the new age applications or the new technologies, yes, the cloud is a better solution for that.
Reflecting on my journey, I guess the approach which worked for us was following. We had a clear strategy of which system we want to keep on cloud. And there was a time when, if I reflect, when I used cloud to the hilt was when when I was working with Snapdeal. There we deliberately decided that some of the systems we want to keep on premise, some of the system we want to keep on private cloud, and the remaining systems were decided to be kept on cloud. So a specific thought that which system would go and why they would go in in a cloud was to be put point number one. And talking about now that if you have decided that you have to put a system in a cloud, whether all clouds are equal? No. Even just talking about hyperscalers, the big three, and if you want to include Alibaba also, big four, each of them has a capability. While a hyperscaler like AWS will give you lots of services, it asks you to be, they would be most happy if you are utilizing all of their services. On the other hand, if you talk about Google, they are probably one of the guys who use most of the open source systems. So, knowing the capabilities of the cloud that you are going and mapping it to your requirement gives a clear and logical answers that where you should migrate that. Once you have, let's say, more than one such cluster, that some is going to a cloud company A, cloud company B, the second level goes of deciding that whether there is an inter-cloud communications needed. If they are needed, you are better off keeping them on a platform-independent code, platform-independent structures, platform-independent architectures. Like if you like to go to Kubernetes, and Kubernetes and containers on A is very similar to service provider B and very similar to service provider C. So if you put those thoughts that which all systems need to communicate, you would be able to take a call better, which will ease your life going forward.
Sure. So yeah, Manish. So I mean, as Avinash said, right? I think he kind of spoke about what are the consideration he's taking while moving to the diverse cloud platform. Is there something else, Manish, you would like to kind of add? And also, since pharma and healthcare is very regulated, so are there some specific points which you would like to kind of bring up when you're deciding on the multi-cloud strategy?
Yeah, well, absolutely. In fact, I think one thing that is very important besides pharma or not pharma is we should be looking at the lock-in periods. What are you committing to? Because that's how you'll be considering the TCO of any cloud application. Because is it a kind of a dedicated or is it a shared service on a private cloud? That's what we'll have to look at. But pharma specific, I think it is more of a regulated, as you rightly said, we cannot just on the go send the application to the cloud because it has to be validated 21 CFR compliant, and any changes would require the CSV to be done again. So even if it is a small patch, so there has to be a lot of stress on patient safety and how the data risks are mitigated. I think that's what we look at. So moving to the cloud in pharma is much more stringent. If it is a non-GXP kind of environment, it is much easier.
Right. So Manish, you mentioned that you're also having the cloud implementations in the UK. So are you also using the UK national cloud or something like that?
No, not really. I think we have not moved all the enterprise applications in the UK, but specifically after the Brexit, we'll have to look at a lot of GDPR things, especially which are coming in the European Union and non-European Union. I think that's what we are considering much more stringently, and we have brought in a lot of risk control towers all across.
Thanks, Manish. So, Rupesh, I would like to ask the next question, right? So, once you have moved, right? So, what are the challenges you have faced or you are facing right now, right? When you're moving, doing the migration?
So, see, there are multiple challenges, but the most important, I would say, that before you move on to cloud, you also have to have internal teams who have the knowledge to analyze all these requirements. As Manish rightly said, you have to evaluate both pros and cons and also decide on the what type of architecture you want to have for a particular application when it moves into cloud. So your internal team also needs to have that particular knowledge. So upskilling the knowledge of your team members, that's one of it. Secondly, application, like as I mentioned, that new generation or a lot of data is now being clouds from different applications, be it CRM or be it your internal application. So analytics is going to be the next thing, and those type of applications will need very resource hungry. So I think it makes sense to move those applications. But then again, we come to the same point of how are you going to architect the particular application, where the data is going to reside, which all different systems are going to exchange data. Because then the security comes into picture, then the data storage cost comes into picture. So it's you need to have to make an informed decision as well. You have to have the skill sets. So I think that's one thing which we generally feel that, just moving to cloud, you try to outsource certain things, but you can't outsource the knowledge part of it. You at least have to have that so that you know that why these decisions have been made and what are the basis for doing it. And having those, developing those skill sets are the challenge, I would say, in current era. Because there are so much of new technology coming in, and so you have to keep yourself updated with this.
Yeah, I think Rupesh, that's a very valid point, right? Because talent plays a very important role, and when you're kind of moving or doing such large scale transformation projects, you need to have the right team. So either you reskill it or get help of new people who already have that skill.
Captive organizations, actually, our business is more into running our business, so supporting the business. So you can't have, there is a limitation. How do you spread, or what is the size you are going to do? So that's always a challenge. I think that will remain a challenge.
So that leads to me to the next question, right? So, I mean, how have you helped? I mean, how did you work or overcome it? Did you use any partners? So one would be the cloud providers themselves as a partner, or did you use any integration or migration partners, right? And how was your experience with those?
Yes, so we do have partners who helps us in the journey of the taking to the cloud. And also a direct connect with the partner, with the OEMs also helps you to give a different perspective. So I think that the partner community is also now, earlier there used to be, dedicated partners or some only A grade, B grade, A grade partners or gold partners. But now you will find these, among the other partners community also, there is a lot of knowledge which has been available with other partners as well. So you need to have a strategic, let's say, engagement with the partners who will help you to solve your problem. Rather than just talking about a migration project, it's talking about a strategic partnership which will help you to look at your roadmap and your digital journey and help you to solve your problems.
So what I've seen is typically if you have a team of because when you're moving yours applications, right? So your team would know the best about those applications, but they may not have the right skills to kind of move it to the cloud. So then having a partner or having new engineers who have that capability, and then having the business, so that finally the new architecture which you are kind of trying to build is kind of taking care of the futuristic requirements. So that works well, right? I think that could be one area. What I have seen work really well is if you can do some small POCs before going full-fledged, right? And so showcase that, okay, for this application, if you do these steps, then kind of work it out. Get the approval from the management for the full-fledged or full-blown
Of course.
migration project.
Yeah, of course. The POC pilot is a part of your migration journey.
Okay.
And there are two types of POC, I would say. One is your technical POC, which is not a much of a challenge as such, but more of, you can't really get to know the business side of it, or the POC from that.
Correct.
Because POC will also have its own limitation. You can't have all the integration in place. You can't have everything validated in the POC.
Right. Yeah. So Avinash, you would like to add on this? How's your experience?
So, we discussed about a scenario when we are migrating from on-prem to cloud. I think there are other combinations which we face in our day-to-day life. Sometimes we have a requirement of portability, putting up one application from one cloud to another. At times we do have a requirement of putting it from a public cloud to a private cloud. And likewise, there are different permutations and combinations, because cloud is a set of ways in which you usually take infra as well as associated services. Each of these combinations has its own set of challenges, and they are unfortunately project specific. We took we had to, in one case, we had to migrate one of the applications from a hyperscaler to a private cloud. And this application had a history. Now, some of their components were built using platform-specific services. So the challenge was to identify all such and have a robust plan to ensure that they are migrated in the new environment without much of an impact on the services. The path that we took was different there. Also, recently, which is, I think, most common one, where we had to shift an application from on-premise server to a cloud. There, we happened to, we did our analysis, and we found that all the tech stack and other stuff were so old. Taking the application simply on the cloud would just be a lip service. So we also decided to coincide its rewrite with its shifting to the cloud. So I guess a holistic evaluation of where you stand, what it will take, why, and most importantly, why you are going on the cloud, helps you decide a strategy which is best for the work at hand.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Avinash, I think this is correct. But yeah, I mean, definitely based on the experiences, there would be areas where you would be able to generalize, right? Having, for example, having a multi-cloud environment, having an abstract layer, which helps us to kind of move very quickly between the two clouds. To do that. And I'm seeing one of the challenges is actually that either it's because of the cost, or it is because the cloud platform, they themselves are kind of updating in different areas very quickly for your use cases. There is a need to kind of switch between them, right? And have you seen any such requirement, and how is that journey for you? So anyone can take it.
Sure. If it is okay, I'll try attempting that question to base.
Go ahead.
So I have seen that, and in fact, if you look at the current set of cloud offerings, in fact, the cloud service providers are also seeing them. Part of the some of the new solutions that you will see in the market are industry clouds. Industry clouds, if they are big enough problem and if there are big enough demand, they create and they solve the issues for the whole industry, where they, while let's say if an industry is a telecalling specific industry, their set of demands is different than a certain other set of demands. So as clouds are maturing, I see those sort of considerations being taken by the cloud service providers, and they are solving also. Now, if I also see that some of the services which used to take very long time, and I was talking to one of my friend in the in videos OTT services. So there, the set of APIs, the set of services that's being offered has also taken a leap and bound. Answering you, Sunil, stating those considerations being taken and being solved.
And when you talk about the cost, Neil, very often what happens is that we don't look at the holistic approach. When I say holistic, in the sense, if you're moving a particular application, you also need to decide on with the to DR have a chip for that. And most of the times, when we talk about the TCO or estimating the cost, these things are not being considered in chip. And I think I've seen, even the cloud service providers, they themselves are learning in certain cases. And then while you're on the journey, you realize that, this is also to be considered. So, and by that time you have already crossed it, you have started your journey, and then you realize that your cost again, goes up for, So I think these things have to be also decided. And as we discussed earlier, that once you take a complete holistic view about which are the applications which are critical in nature, because in certain cases, what we have done is we have taken an approach where we have kept the quality and development still on-prem, and we have kept only the production on the cloud, so that we can take the benefits of it. Certain areas we are also exploring on the switch on, switch off concept or pay by use type of concept. There is no concrete, I would say, a solution to a particular strategy which can be adopted, but it all depends on your needs assessment for that.
Right. Yeah, perfectly. Well said, Rupesh. Right. So, definitely cost plays an important role, and then depending upon your use cases, you could kind of tweak it so that you get the optimum benefit. But yeah, usually what we have seen is when we start implementing, everybody expects the cost to go down. Actually, it increases, and then you need to run the optimizations to kind of reduce the cost, and then to do the complete life cycle. So, leading to the next question, right? So, are you kind of using, once you move to the cloud, right? Are there any tools or dashboards which you're using so that you kind of get a constant feed? And how's your experience been with using these tools? So, Rupesh, you would like to,
Yeah. So certain, as I said, that generation tools like particularly for forecasting, sales forecasting, or whether it is for developing dashboards for IoT purpose. So these type of tools really give you a good the advantage of moving to the cloud, because you don't have to keep on exploring much about it, since it is some of the cloud service provider give you the native tools which they are in use. So in these areas we have found that we are getting good benefits of it, where it's not only the application which moves to the cloud, but also helps in the getting the data which can be presented in an informative format.
Okay. Thanks, Rupesh. Avinash, you would like to add?
Sure. So, Sunil, in our experience, we have used platform or tools in multiple areas. One of the common platform where we have derived a lot of value is a multi-cloud management platform, and there are multiple options there, right from Nutanix to CloudBolt to IBM MCMP. They help you manage multiple clouds. And we also have used tools which allows us manage those environment as a service. Usually they are of they are of nature middleware, and they help you manage the multi-cloud deployments and their communications. There are again multiple tools out there. We are using one. We are also using tools which allows us build the cloud security. So if they have how do I ensure that same policy applies to multiple clouds? So we are using Lacework, which helps us manage the security. Then we are also using a tool which helps us provide the cost intelligence. There are again multiple tools out there. And last but not the least, we are also using a tool for multi-cloud integrations. We are using their talent, which helps us communicate between different clouds. So, and I mentioned you 4 or 5 different areas, but you speak an area and you will have a solution there.
Right. So that's good, right? I mean, Ash, I think that's really helpful for a lot of people who kind of moving to this journey, right? Because tools are very important to kind of get the productivity and also the visibility as to how things are kind of getting done. Great. So yeah, I think that's really good discussion, and I would like to thank both of you and also Manish, who had to leave early, right, because of another call, for having this very interesting and engaging discussion. I hope all of you like the discussion, and this was insightful.
It was pleasure.
It was
Thank you.
Definitely pleasure. Sunil, I think you asked very pertinent questions, and I am happy to say that I learned about different aspects from the co-panelists.
Same here, Sunil. While we were discussing, there were different perspectives which we had, what the experiences of Avinash and Sunil.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Rupesh. Thanks, Avinash.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.